Well, New World is officially a year old, so it's time to do a little bit of a review as to where the game is now. My name is Steven with Level Up MMO, and we're going to talk everything from PvP to PvE, how they've improved the game, and where I think it can go. So let's get into it. First things first, the game has come a long way. So if you were somebody who played early on, if you were somebody who considered it, watched some videos then, you're definitely going to want to watch the rest of this video to understand where the game is today. However, I'm not going to go over all the changes. I did do a video recently with 26 of the biggest and smallest changes you should know about, and I'll throw that up somewhere at the top of the screen. Just look for it. We're going to kick things off on the PvE front, and it is drastically different. Basically, they have unlocked dungeons or expeditions as they're called. In New World, you can now run them pretty freely. You're capped daily with regulars, and then the mutations, which came out since release, you are limited in how many a week you can do of those, but you don't need tuning orbs anymore. That is a great thing, and it allows you to do a lot more of the end game content and early game content really as well with some of those lower level expeditions. And I think that's a really good thing that they've done, and it allows people the freedom to choose another way that they want to experience the game if they want to spam dungeons and things like that. I also want to say, when reviewing this aspect, they have some of the best dungeons in all of MMOs. I truly believe that. They are gorgeous. There's some unique features. I think they could do more with that, and I think they will. But I mean, if you just look at Tempest, it is one of the prettiest dungeons ever. I'm telling you. Overall, I would rate the expedition experience to be pretty high. I think now that we're up to 5 with the Brimstone Sands update, there's plenty of content to do in that regard. Overall, is there enough content in the game? I still think there's room for improvement. They have recently said, and that's going to be in a video that I'll put up here, that raids are coming. They have now worked out expeditions to a high level, and now they're going to try to do 10 and 20 player raid content, which I'm extremely excited for because I think that is one of the missing pieces. However, I do think currently, with the way that you have to kind of horizontally grind some gear sets, there is enough content in the game so long as those are things that interest you. Now let's talk about getting to the end game. I think that originally it was a little lackluster. It was really just grinding town boards and things like that. They have improved that experience. It's not like that anymore. It is definitely a better experience, and is going to be improved even further with the Brimstone Sands update, because they'll be coming out with a level revamp for 1 through 25, which means that the quest lines will be different, the experience will be different. They've added more points of interest. They've made it more immersive. And one of the things the game was lacking early on was the immersion in the story. Nobody cared about it. Most people couldn't even tell you what the storyline was because it really wasn't there in your face. And they're improving that. They're changing that. They're adding more cutscenes. They're making sure that there is more to it that ties you into the world of Eternum. And that is a great thing. The last bit that I want to touch on with the leveling experience and getting to 60 is that it is much faster now. They've improved how much experience you get. I think also adding these quests with the level 1 through 25 is going to speed that up, and people can be getting to 60 at about 50% of the time, which means you'll be getting to the end game content, which a lot of people enjoy, even faster if you choose to. It's worth noting though that you still get experience for things like crafting, refining, PvP, all of these elements, so you can kind of get there at your own pace and in your own way. As someone who never really disliked the leveling experience, I'm gonna say that it's pretty solid, and it's only gotten better, so that also gets a pretty high rating from me. When it comes to crafting in this game, I don't consider myself an expert, but I've experienced some things. I've definitely done the refining and the gathering and stuff like that, and I enjoy that experience. I do think that at the highest level, you can make great gear, and that's important when you are having crafting in a game, is that it should mean something, right? In World of Warcraft, it used to, then it slowly just kind of disappeared from being an important aspect. Well, in New World, it is an important aspect and something that people actually do seek out to have things made, to buy things on the auction house, and I think that is a great system to have in place. And so crafting in this game overall, nice. I also think that the gathering is pretty addictive. I find myself chopping down trees and mining things all the time just because I think they did a great job with that, and you can get experience again. So leveling up, crafting overall, I'm happy with. I give that a pretty good rating as well. So we've talked about expeditions, we talked about end game content overall, we talked about crafting, but in that and moving into PvP, we need to discuss just combat as a whole. So combat in this game, for me, falls into 2 buckets: either insanely fun and interactive and action oriented, or clunky and dull and aggravating. I enjoy action combat. I do think that it is something that's more immersive. It makes you feel like you're really into the game. It keeps you focused, and that's something that I personally enjoy. However, this comes with some negatives. Generally, in active combat, it's much harder to fine tune, and it leads to what we have in New World sometimes, which is just things seeming off. The movement, you getting caught in animations, not being able to cancel those animations. These are complaints that I really do have with the game, especially when it comes to PvP, where every little second, half second, microsecond matters. And when you get stuck in a spot, or you don't roll the right way, or the desync is kind of there, it's aggravating, and it's definitely something that New World can improve upon. If they're able to smooth out the gameplay, make it more fluid, maybe speed some things up with, for instance, the life staff, shooting that thing with light attacks or heavy attacks is so clunky, it just doesn't feel good. So if they have to nerf something to make that, sped up a little bit or whatever it might be, I'm okay with that. I want fluid, I want engaging combat. I don't want to get to these issues where it just doesn't feel right and you feel like the game is working against you in the movements that you want to make. So that's one of my biggest complaints with New World as it stands, is combat could definitely be smoother. With combat on our mind, let's talk about PvP. So PvP originally was basically just wars. Open world and wars was all you could do, and now they have managed to get OPR, which is 20 versus 20 PvP in. That is another one that gets a little laggy. The desync issues can be a little higher, but it is playable, and at times it seems like, okay, this is smooth enough. I enjoy this. It does seem to lack, at least for me as a main healer, some feeling of I'm doing something important. I'm an AoE healer. I shoot my heals into the masses. I'm keeping people alive. I come number one in a lot of OPRs, but I don't feel that when I'm playing. I do think it lacks some of that I'm having an impact, even though I can see it. I can see that I'm number one on the leaderboards. I've done millions of healing. I still don't feel as active in the game. That's just a complaint that I have, though. In arenas, I think it's really, really fun. I think that it's interesting when it comes to just like balancing changes, which I guess we're kind of getting into now, is that certain things may be really strong on OPR, not as good in PvE, pretty good in arenas. Certain things may be insane in arenas, decent in OPR, and no good at all in PvE. And this allows for different sets and to be able to piece things together in unique ways, and something they basically admitted, again in the recent dev video, that they're okay with that. It's not every item is going to be balanced from every single type of way of playing the game. You're going to have something that is really strong here, not as great here, and mediocre in the middle, and that is the intent right now, because balancing across all these different aspects to make everything perfect just simply isn't viable. So my overall take is adding the PvP track to be able to reward yourself for doing these things is really cool. I like that you get your tokens and things like that. There are incentives for PvP, and that's a big aspect, and some people really enjoy it. Some people only play the game for PvP. I do think that a new map for OPR could be cool. I think that some better rewards could also be nice, and leaderboards, which they've said are coming, are something that I think would really spice things up and get people to take part in them. Now, when it comes to wars, the territory issues are still there. You have people doing shell companies, which they're targeting very soon. They've already announced that they're trying to figure out ways to stop it. And basically what people are doing is taking like one person, making a separate company, and because you can invite an entire roster that's not from your company, they just take their main company, which they're the alt of, and just invite all those people, and they take territory after territory after territory after territory for a bunch of shell companies, and it's just not that fun. You see the same players in every war. There is definitely a gate that people are being kept out of when it comes to being able to participate in wars, and that's going to happen no matter what, unless there's a drastic change to the system. So wars can be fun. I think that they've come a long way from the early days. They're definitely much smoother now, but there are definitely still issues with this system and the territory system in general that AGS needs to work on. Moving on from PvP, this may not be something that most people think about, but it's a complaint that I have had, is that the game really lacked variety when it came to mobs, meaning all the monsters and creatures, whatever you want to call them, that you fought throughout the game were basically the same thing. They might have had 10 to 15 different kinds, and then some reskins of the same ones using the same attacks, and it just got really old. You knew exactly what was going to happen most of the time. They looked the same. It just wasn't that appealing. This is something that is changing with the Brimstone Sands update, where they're adding a whole bunch of new mobs. They're changing things up. They've definitely heard that feedback, so I'm glad they're doing it. However, I don't know if it will impact any of the previous zones. I don't know if the 1 through 25 experience is actually going to see variety in mobs, or if it's only going to be from Brimstone forward. I do know they have plans to extend the revamp from 1 through 25 all the way through 60, should they get good feedback on what they've done thus far, and from what I'm seeing, they're definitely going to be doing that. And one of the final points is that the World of Eternum is beautiful. The music is well done. You can definitely get lost out traveling, checking out new heights. I mean, it's just a really, really pretty world. It's well done, but there's a downside to that, and that is that the game is not the most optimized game I've ever played. There's definitely issues. I have a pretty high-end system, and I still suffer FPS drops and stuff. Mind you, I'm streaming most of the time, so you have to take that into account. However, there could be performance improvements, and I hope they continue to come. They've done a decent job of making strides when there are massive issues with the game like that, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more polishing, but I do want to touch on just the fact that the graphics in this game are very nice. So there you have it. That's my review of New World. I think it's in a much better place than it was. I think it's a fine game now. Are there ways that the game can improve? Absolutely. I listed some here in this video. I might have missed some. If you have some others, let me know in the comments below. But do I think the game stands strong right now, or when the Brimstone Sands update drops? Yes, I think that there is enough content. I think that the game does play well enough to warrant you giving it a shot and experiencing the World of Eternum and all that it comes with. If this video was helpful at all, or if you just like New World and MMO content, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out some of the other New World videos that I have on my page. If you want to support me directly in the best way, you can always become a member here, or come check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/heartbreaker_TV. And until next time, good luck in your adventures.